Hey everybody, and welcome to your Indie Snapshot for today. Today, we're taking a look at a game that recently was released on Steam, came out last year on the PlayStation Network, and is a rhythm-based racing kind of game that has a really unique and interesting style to it, as well as the way it presents its music. The closest thing that I can personally think of to compare it to would be something like Audio Surf, but even comparing it to that doesn't really do this game justice. Currently it is going to be $15 on Steam, and without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, why I'm having such a good time with it when I fully expected it to be something more, or something that I would more or less kind of put down after our first couple of levels. So this is going to be Dyad, and let's dive in. We're going to jump into the first level. I've unlocked the second level as well. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish levels, but this looks like it has infinite levels. Each one has an X amount of levels within it, so 2.76 TeV, for whatever that stands for, is going to be our first level that you're going to get. You go in here, and you have a bunch of different levels to play from. One of the things that I'm immediately going to say about the game itself is the way it presents its menu is really cool. I am highly into this kind of hypnotic, techno-style kind of music, electronic music, so to speak. And each one has its own unique tune, and I had a good time just doing this. I couldn't help it. It's just too much fun for me to just kind of mess with the sound a little bit. But we're going to jump into Tune In, the first level. We're going to explain the basic concepts, and then we're going to see how each level essentially introduces successfully a new concept to keep the gameplay interesting and new and fresh. So first one is going to be Tune In. It says hook enemies to pull yourself through the tube. Alright, hook 9 pairs of enemies. Sounds good to me. Hook enemies by pressing A, and hook every purple enemy before passing them. What basically hooking is going to do, enemies by lining them up, tapping A, trying to let enemies pass you without hooking them. So what hooking does, essentially, at least in this area, is just give you kind of a speed boost. So I just hit A, and every time I hook an enemy, it's going to give me kind of a little sound audio cue. Every time I hook an enemy as well, it gives me a speed boost. So this is where the racing aspect of the game comes in. As I said, you're kind of trying to get to the end of this level, and most levels, as fast as you can, by hooking as many enemies as you can, or later on in levels, how many pairs of enemies that you can, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So it's the basic idea is to just hook enemies. One of the things this game does as well is introduces kind of... Whoop. Apparently we did it. Only hook violet enemies, avoid hooking X enemies. So they're introducing a new concept halfway through-ish. So we avoid the red X's and hook only the purple ones. They're making the red X's obviously, plainly obvious for you to see as the player, just so right now you kind of know what to avoid, but later on that's going to change. Enemies are going to look different, things are going to start shooting at you, etc., etc. So one of the things this game does that I like is that it doesn't really give you a health or a life right now. It will later on, but early on it doesn't. All it does is, if you hit an enemy, it just kind of slows you down. It sets you back a certain amount, and again, with the game that's all kind of about, I hooked the X. And a game that's about racing and very much about time trials, getting slowed down can really put you behind. So now we're going to be hooking as many enemy pairs as possible. Every pair of enemies we hook, we will get a speed boost. And that's really as simple as that. So we're just trying to make sure we're hooking in pairs here. So purple, purple, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, yellow, yellow, or even just yellow, 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 purple, purple, etc., etc. I know you guys aren't idiots. I think you know what a pair is, but just in case you just weren't entirely sure, I'm glad to inform you, as people use the word couple wrong all the time, and I need to correct them every single time. So that's it. That is my high score, actually, for this level, the tutorial level. And my current rank on the leaderboard is 293. I don't know how many people are out there, but I think that's in the higher end. So we're going to hit OK, and we're going to move to Dyad. So before we move on to the next level, I'm actually going to probably skip a few levels and go down a little bit. We're going to look at the menu here, and we also have the options to do a trophy objective. The trophy objective is to hook 22 pairs of enemies while pressing the hook button a maximum 50 times, meaning no spamming the A button trying to figure it out. Again, very cool to introduce these in-game challenges I really like. And then Remix, I can turn off and on different types of trigger music, infinite play, I can turn on if I'd so like, speed equals music, etc., etc. Just a cool bunch to remix the music if you'd so like, which kind of changes the gameplay a little bit. The other thing I want to talk about is the way the game looks. It's very psychedelic, right? It's very bright colors, amorphic, and kind of abstract graphical production. Just like your character looks like a swimming squid, I think, for the most part. Which I actually really like for a game that's very similar to audio. So I feel a lot of these games that kind of base themselves around sound. The graphical nature kind of surrounding them almost needs to be abstract in a way that gets the player to not so much focus on what you're looking at, but to focus on what you're hearing. While looking at the screen, though, is not as important as what the game is trying to do is introduce some very interesting music, so I think it does a very good job. It's a little bit basic, but I like it, and it never gets confusing for me. I never look at this game and say, what am I looking at right now? I'm really confused, where am I? So that's really neat. I really like that. So we're going to go down to Magic Circle. We're going to play a later on level here, and it's going to introduce the grazing mechanic. So the grazing mechanic is when I hook an enemy, it's going to release a circle around it. And every time I release a circle, I need to graze the circle. We'll show you. It's easier to show you than to describe it. So we're going to hook right here. And see how something popped around that enemy? What we want to do is fly through that circle without actually touching the enemy. And we're going to graze as many enemies as we can without actually hitting them. If we do end up hitting them, we're going to get sent back. Another mechanic that I don't know if it's in this one. I think it is. It is in this one. It might be in another level, though. What happens is if you hit an enemy, instead of just getting slowed down and sent back, which you do, it actually deducts the amount of the grazings that you performed. So if I performed 15 out of 18 grazings, and then I hit an enemy, it might send me back -3, so I need to redo that. So not only is it sending me further back in the level, it's also sending me further back in the amount of enemies that I've grazed. And that can, again, lengthen the time you're actually in the level. And in doing that, making your score a little bit lower and putting you further down in the ranks. It's very much a score attack kind of game. One that doesn't really say you're gonna lose. It's more saying that it's just how fast you can complete a level, which again, I'm okay with. It's the kind of game it's designed to be. So we got 3 stars there. We're going to hit next sector. I think it gives us 3 sectors. So now we're going to get introduced to the lance mechanic. The lance mechanic is hit X, and I can now bust through enemies. And every time I go through an enemy, I get a speed boost. And the lance only lasts for a short amount of time, but the more enemies I go through, the longer it'll last. And so obviously you want to try and go through as many enemies as humanly possible. So we're going to we're going to have lance meter in the bottom right and bottom left. And the way to charge your lance meter is to graze as many enemies as you possibly can. So we did that. Let's do this again. We want to basically look for lines of enemies. That's going to be the best and easiest way to charge up and get a big, enormous speed boost here. So we're going to try and charge up as many of these as we can, but I'm going to actually burn a lance meter there just to go through those enemies. And we're not going to burn our lance meter yet. We want to see if we can get a good line of enemies ahead. Burning it now would be a waste, but here we go. There's a nice spot to burn it. And we'll do it here as well. We can go through a good chunk of enemies there. And we can then graze the rest all the way. So burning it on like a line of 2 enemies is kind of a waste, but here, 3 or more, I'd say, in this particular level anyway, is definitely worth it. And then you gotta start to hook again. And I love how like these little blue lines kind of shoot out every time you hook an enemy. Again, simple touch, a simple graphical change, but it's really kind of cool looking, and it's never too obstructive to the eye. As much as it's really flashy, I mean, and kind of blinking and all kinds of lights in your faces, it doesn't get that confusing. And that in itself is kind of an accomplishment in my eyes for this game developer, because it could be so easy to overwhelm the player kind of visual sense. With just random colors and things that a lot of games have done. And there you go, I just got hit and see how I got sent back there. But it's really easy to just say, you know, I want colors and flashes all over the place. And I can't remember, there was a recent indie game that did that. I can't remember the name of it. But basically the plot was you were kind of going back in time after basically a ship had just destroyed an enemy, and the game was you going back in time and avoiding all of like the shots fired and everything in a musical way. It was just too bright and too intrusive on your eyesight. So we got that one. We're going to swing on back. We're going to go to the new level now. We're going to take a look at some of these now since I haven't played it. So this one is lance 100 enemies as quickly as possible, and there's going to introduce a new mechanic called the lance extender. For extra long lances, the lance extender enemies. So lance extender enemies act as wildcards that can be paired when hooking with any other enemy. Good to know. So they're going to introduce a new enemy type here that's going to be useful for lancing, and music changes up dramatically. which we need to, we can hook up with like any other enemy here. There we go. And now we can kind of lance through that. Whoa. So one of the things I really also like about the game is that, that the music never remains too samey. It does continue to have this kind of electronic funk style to it, but never does it ever kind of get boring. They do a very good job at keeping those similar themes running through the music itself, or I should say similar sounds running through the music itself, differentiating the themes long enough. Oh god. Oh, that lance extender definitely did mess me up. There was a comment that I read in somebody else's video of this, that said this is, I mean, the comment got downvoted just because of hating, I'm assuming. But I'm gonna say for the most part they're kind of spot on. This reminds me if maybe if Skrillex. I mean, I know I hate Skrillex just as much as the next person, but whoa, we can extend the Lancer there. If we can just keep, hang on, I'm not gonna go anywhere. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say yet because I feel like I can just. There we go. Just trying to hit as many lance extenders as possible as we can. Alright. Now I'm gonna hold off. Basically this is like putting Skrillex music to like music, and if Skrillex wasn't so like crazy for the most part, but it's like putting Skrillex music to a video game or to a video, I feel like is a good way to describe it. I don't know how many enemies we've lanced through, but there's way too many there for me to not take that one there. And then we can easily go through here. Oh, we did it. Okay. I wonder how fast we did it. I wasn't paying attention to the stars. We did it. We actually ranked number 9. Wow. We did really well there. Holy crap. I will accept that score wholeheartedly. So let's go to the next one, Heroic Dose. Heroic Dose is Lance Blocker, Lance Extender. Race all 3 sectors as fast as possible. So it's going to be one of those where you're just going through different sectors and trying to get them as fast as possible. Not really looking to lance 100 enemies or whatever it was as fast as you can. It's just trying to, nice, a boost there, which we can pair up there. Just try to get it through as fast as possible, a time attack. One of the things this game does is vary up its objectives really, really well. It does an excellent, excellent job at making the objectives in this game always different and fresh, though maybe a little bit repetitive ever so often. Not repetitive enough to make the game boring. Whoop. And there we go. Another extended lance booster. If we can just keep extending our boost, our lance, that would be excellent. It's not so much about hooking anymore, it's just about hitting these lance extenders because it's going to allow us to get through this level as pretty much as fast as humanly possible. And as long as we can maintain constant lance, as many lance extendings as we can, we should be good. Every time we hit one of those lance extenders, it slows down time ever so slightly, where I'm going to have enough time to rotate the world and basically line myself up with another lance extender. And we are going to have enough, it looks like lance to just kind of fire through here without having to hook anymore, which is absolutely excellent. And I don't know how well we're doing, but I'm going to assume we're doing pretty well, unless there's just for some reason this level people were just a beast at. And then we can just do that, and we can probably hit that one right there, which we were. And we're going to go to Sector 3 here. So we'll see how we end up doing. Looks like we did pretty well. Maybe not as well as I thought, though. The graph can be a little bit more difficult to read sometimes, which we're just going to start having to hook ourselves. We got Lance Blockers now, which is going to be an unfortunate aspect to this level, I feel. I have a feeling I'm going to be hitting those quite often. Doesn't look like there's any lance extenders at all either, which is unfortunate because the lance is basically the quickest way to get your ass through this level. And I don't think hooking in pairs really matters all that much. Whoop, almost hit that one. We're not going to hit that at all. And we're going to try and hit. Oh, I got blocked. I got lance blocked. Ha, lance blocked. Oh, did it again. Like I said, this could be the bane of my existence in this particular level, I have a feeling. And I hit an enemy there, of course, so that's going to set me back. So this particular sector in this race is going to be absolutely horrible. I am not going to do well at all here. But that's fine. Again, I'm also trying to divert some brain power to commentating, which is, in a game like this, it can be a little bit difficult as it can require a lot of focus to know where to line up the right boosts and know when to use your lance appropriately, as opposed to wasting it and missing most things, and trying not to hit the lance blocker. When this game starts to move really fast, like a lot of cool little indie racing games, it can be a sight to behold, and at the same time, I failed. Oh, I had to get through there a certain amount of time. That is unfortunate. Well, we'll give a quit here. That is basically Dyad. I don't want to ruin too much and show a lot of too much of the game, because if you're going to get it, if you're into these types of games, it's definitely worth getting. Dyad is a surprise for me. I knew it'd come out last year on PSN, but I didn't know much about it. I don't remember reading any of the reviews. I didn't go back and check the reviews, so this is kind of a fresh look for me personally. So if everybody else says it's garbage, well, I disagree with them. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's definitely worth the $15, especially for people who like the audio surf type of games, rhythm-based, momentum-based kind of racing games. Definitely worth checking out. This has been my indie snapshot for Dyad, and I hope you guys go and check it out yourselves. Thank you so much for swinging by, and I will see you next time.